Welcome back to Project Snow Beast. This is playlist number 7. If you're interested in the series, please start with number 1. It'll probably answer a lot of your questions about what the project is and where we're going with it. But basically, it's a John Deere 445 garden tractor in the process of being repaired, restored, fixed, brought back to life after an extended period of disuse and a whole bunch of rust damage from salt because it was used with the snowblower and a cozy cab in snow, salt, ice, and then left outside for several years, sitting right where you see it, or about a foot over. Anyway, we've gotten a lot of work done so far. Today, I don't think we're going to get it done right here because if you look, I'm in a little bit of a water pit here. What's happened is the snow is melting, and if you're not in an area where it snows, here's what happens. Underneath, the front ground is still frozen. The water melting on the top, because it's warm today, can't get through that frozen layer, and it turns into a pit of mud and stuff you wouldn't want to be laying in. And guess what I have to do today? Go underneath the tractor. What we're doing is we're putting in AM 13004 131004 hydraulic line, which looks like this, and this goes from the power steering pump and goes to what they call the SCV valve, which is this line on the back there. I'm replacing it. If you haven't seen the other parts in the series, all those lines were rusted. I've changed out the line with the crook in it, the line with the 90 in it, one underneath the seat, one here, which you can see poking through here. And this is the last one of the hard lines on the tractor that were all rusted out and have been replaced with used ones so far. This part I can only find new for whatever reason. It's got quite an extensive manual here of how to do it. Just to give you an idea, it's this line up here, and guess what? Yeah, that's your drive shaft coming off of your engine. This part here has got to be taken apart. Those are those things that rock in and out to make the SCV, the valves, operate. I'm going to give you the best shots of this manual that I can because, for example, here it is running underneath and behind all this stuff. So not good. Multi-pages. Now, it's only 2 pages, but it's a lot of work. It's actually 3 pages. Supposedly, you got to remove the engine drive shaft to get that out of the way. I'm hoping that's not the case. I guess you got to remove this thing to bring that out of the way. It comes with this clip and the bolt, and supposedly you got to measure over and make sure you don't drill up into your radiator, and you got to drill that and put the clip on there. And then, of course, it involves removing that plate that goes to the power steering control valve that I've already had off in the previous video. Just a lot of work, a lot of steps, a lot of processes, much more involved than on any other one that we replaced so far, which is basically just take both sides off and replace them. So this one's going to get a little deeper. Okay, I've decided to move my location. This is not going to work. It's about 1.5 inches of water there. I usually just sit on that piece of plywood, lay it down, but today that's not going to work. This is the wrong spot. I really didn't want to restart the tractor right now because the other lines are currently empty and I don't need all the bleed back falling on my head while I'm under there working. But I'm going to have to bite the bullet, start it up, prime those lines, and move it hydraulically, which is how this tractor moves, is with the hydrostatic transmission. So we're going to end up... I'll probably be glad I did move it, but I don't really need that stuff dripping on me today, but it is what it is. I'm going to clear a path and we'll go do this someplace dry. So to get this to move, this is my seat switch, and I know if I let the brake off without that, the engine will die. So I need to take my little piece of clothesline wire. I hope this will conduct enough electricity. It's not copper, and put this in there. Let me get you up on the tripod. All you're doing is jumping from one to the other. If you were smart, you would take a spare seat switch if you might have one. Use that plug and just have a jumper. That way you can just plug it in. I was hoping this would just sit right beside there. Kind of works. They're just really stiff. It's not like regular wire. That might make a connection. It's probably not the best. Here's what I'm thinking right now. So far the progress is there's a big plate with 2 bolts that holds all the hydraulic lines tight against the into the power steering control valve. I've got that plate loose. Right now it looks like there is enough room to take everything out without, maybe you could like fish this thing up in there somehow. I probably wrong because the procedure says otherwise, but here's what I think I'm noticing is that this piece is straight across. Probably this goes up to the frame tighter. That's why you need that clip. Probably the drive shafts were banging into these. The one up there seems to be curved. I think it's much lower than this one, as the drive shaft would be in this area. I think they made this part go up tight to the frame to keep it out of the way, and that's why you need that clip. I think it's right about here to go over and down. I could be wrong, but right now it looks like there's enough room to take the old one off without taking anything off. So I'm going to try not disturbing anything else, and if I have to do the procedure the way they say, we will, and we'll find out together. Gotcha on the selective control valve. That's what they're calling this thing. First thing I noticed is there's the nut I have to get, and the line runs backwards. First thing I noticed is there is literally no way to get that off without moving this line, which I've just recently put on. But here's the beautiful thing. It takes almost nothing to get these off. That is the most easy to use. These may not be the best fittings, as I said in the last video, but boy, are they easy to take off, even after years and years of being rusted on there. I mean, look at that thing. That probably hasn't been taken off since the factory. And it just comes off, even as rusty as these are. They're so rusty. The lines were rusted through. The nut was damn near rusted through. To me, that's unusual to have one piece work so smoothly still. Now will it? Yes, it will. Now it stopped again. Can't quite get a full grasp on it. We've all done it. 1/16 of a turn, flip the wrench. We've all been in an obstructed bolt before. Bear with me. There we go. come loose like nothing. Grabbing it from the back. Yep, it's loose. Nice. We're winning. One of the things I think is important is take this fuel line loose. This is a return line. I took mine completely off, well, off this end. The way it has to go is frame rail, new hydraulic line, hose underneath. Do not pinch this up against the frame or you're going to pinch it off. And that would not be good. I had a big struggle on mine. As you know, this machine has a good amount of rust. And there's a pin that goes up and two flat bars rotate on it for the controls that go up to the from the steering column. Those two controls that control the valve here. Well, there's a pin that goes through the center there, and that's supposed to be pounded out, and there's a little clip on it. Well, the clip came off fine. For the life of me, I could not get that out, so I ended up having quite a struggle getting mine to fit up in there. But did get it on the other side. Had to bend the line a little bit. Now, what that means for me is that this one is not lining up perfectly by itself. It's spring loaded. It's a little low. We're going to get it. But if I hadn't bent that line, had to bend that line, I hated to have to do it, but I had no other alternative that I could see besides getting out of the air compressor and my big air impact wrench that's buried and air hammer, and probably could have got it out that way. But heat and beat would not work. So I'm going to get a new O-ring, put on this fitting here. Came in the kit. Actually, no. That O-ring was for the other side. Anyway, I'm going to make up this here. I got to get that pulled up into position. Got you zoomed in there to that valve. Make sure we got a nice clean surface there. Not that my finger is the cleanest thing right now. Get this nut to come up. Just reaching around the back there, bending that line how it needs to bend. It's going to need to come in pretty good. It wants to spring back, as you can see. I recommend don't bend your lines, because it's going to cost me a headache right now. Try to get your pin out. I couldn't. Most of them won't even have any rust on them. Well, then why would you be replacing the line, I guess? Yeah, that's going to be a struggle. Okay, a little off-camera manipulation. Got that line lined up, tightened it up, ran it, gave it a leak check. Everything's good. So I think we got a good hydraulic system. Now I feel confident enough to go ahead and check the fluid level and add that extra quart if necessary, that quart that I left out earlier. Let's see where we're at right now. I assume probably not even on the stick, and that's true. So I'll go ahead and add whatever it takes, bring this up to the proper level. Let's see where we're at here. And I'm not screwing that in. We are on the stick. I'm going to say we're right about there. So whether this is supposed to be screwed in to check it, most of them, like oil, you don't, because that's just silly. But if you did, then you would be just in the range of, yeah, let me try that again. It's all over the stick. And I'm on relatively level ground here. Not too bad. Then we are right in the middle. So that amount should have been right for this tractor, but I've leaked some out, having to take the lines off after filling. So probably should add a little bit more, but for now, let's roll with it. Next thing I want to do is see if I can get these headlights working now that we got a good running tractor. If I turn the key on, that switch is doing nothing. Does it have to be running? Still nothing. Well, the first thing I'm going to try is I've got some of these LED lamps. Just a typical replacement lamp. Now, just guessing, let's go for replacing the bulbs first, and then we'll track wires if they don't light when we get this going. And I'm glad I didn't run that much, because this is a muffler, I just realized. And that could be pretty hot if you were just running it. This is just a quarter turn out, I think. But this doesn't come out easy. Half turn. Yeah, it's like a quarter turn. And that bulb, it's a little dark, but it looks like the filament's still in there, so I might be barking up the wrong tree. Let's see now. Okay, it doesn't work with the key off. Key on. No change. Now I'm going to turn the bulb around to change the polarity. Or no, that won't change the polarity on these. That wouldn't change the polarity on these, because you have to watch on some bulbs, they have two terminals on the bottom. And if it's able to go in your socket the wrong way, you'll have wrong polarity. And on LEDs, it's absolutely crucial. Positive is positive. So I guess I got to start with the voltmeter and see what we got going on here. I believe this tractor has a minimum of fuses. I see two 15-amp fuses here. I think those are just soldered on the board. A 10. That appears good. Is it the switch? Is it the ignition switch? Is it that control board? Is it this little rocker switch? Don't know. We got to do some tracing. Best way I know is to start at the furthest point. Well, really, the furthest point is that one, because this one bridges over, but start here and make sure we don't have a bad socket holder, something. I don't think we're going to have two bad ones, but anything's possible. We got it running. I got the leads hooked up to the headlight. Well, yeah, I got 12 volts up there. Maybe messing with that fuse. Maybe it was the fuse. All right. Or a loose wire somewhere up in there. Let's take these off. Oh, I should have watched which one this went on now, because that's going to matter. Well, we'll try it one way. If it doesn't work, we'll try it the other way. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, this socket's all messed up. These connections, not too good. I'm gonna have to knock the corrosion off of this inside and out. And while we got it working, let me see if it has to be running. If it doesn't, I'm gonna shut it off and leave it off. Okay, it can be just ignition on. So there you go. You should have power in the ignition on. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna take the corrosion off of that one, and I'll bring you back. Got that one good. That one had a little fuzzy, what do you call it? Spider web, I guess it was. Spider nest? What do you call those? Yeah, webs. Down at the bottom. Scraping the piece on the side. If you had a Dremel or something, that would probably be perfect for getting in there. I'm going to leave that one. It doesn't want to come off. Where's my other LED? Found it. Let's see if that's reasonably... Yep, it stays on. Okay. Oh yeah. Those headlights are Wildwood certified. And spoiler alert, I did also buy the ones for the back, these little guys, but I'm not going to put them in because these have a good chance of getting broken or lost as I'm transporting this thing around. Now, just some of the tedious stuff. When I was taking the seat pan off originally in one of the much earlier episodes, one of these seat bolts came out. I'm calling these seat bolts. They're for the fender pan. One of these came out and one of these did not. So I had to cut that one out because I broke it. So here we go. I've got my little U-nuts. I'll put a link in the description below. These ones are stainless steel. And these are the only ones I found that actually seem to be good quality. They're not sharp. They're finished well. I went with the US Imperial thread, but you can go with whatever you want. It is not what was on there. What was on there, I believe, was M6. I went with 1/4 because I have a plentiful supply of standard bolts and much less choice of metric. Next order of business, I got you zoomed in there on the dash panel. Key switch. In a previous video, when I was first, one of the earlier ones again, I noticed that there's probably a key in there broken off. I thought originally that it was just stuck. Turns out you can just turn it with anything. Well, for safety, that's not good, because if I turn it with something, like I've been just using a key, just any key, and just turning it, well, if you do that, if you have an emergency of any kind, you can't shut that off without going in your pocket and finding something to turn it with. So let's see if we can get that old key piece out of there. It does look to move in there a little bit. I think I see it moving. And what I've got is just a pick. It's got an angle on it. It's very sharp at the end. And I know there's tricks of, putting hot glue in there and super gluing something to it and then pulling it, and a lot of different methods of going about the same problem here. If you've got a good suggestion of a good idea, if you know a better way, go ahead and put it down in the description. Help somebody out. I'll probably already have mine done by then, but the next person can learn from your experience. It's in there pretty deep. Get that thing out of my way. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be doing. Just a bunch of fiddling around with the key, trying to get it hooked down there and pull it out. It may not work. I'm not having good luck yet getting it out. I think what I'm going to try, I'll just pull it down. I think I can get it back up in there without taking out too much stuff, without disturbing anything. Maybe I could see it better down there, is my hope. And I've got you zoomed into ridiculous proportion. If you look at what's the inside where the key goes, you see that gold thing right there at the bottom? That is one of the pins that goes in the key. There's I don't want to short that out. There's usually, the ripples on the key. There's pins that go in there. Well, one of the pins has the key is in there, and one of the pins has come behind it. So I'm going to have to do a much better job of holding that pin back so that key can even try to come out. But to do that, I'm going to go and take the circuit board out. But I see a couple of crusty, let me get you zoomed in here. I see a couple of crusty connections I'm a little scared of. See the green crusties on those connectors? So I'm going to have to go through all those. It doesn't look like they're rotted off, but they're well corroded. So I am not going to mess with it because I need to be able to drive this tractor to put it away for tonight. So I'm just going to limp it back where it goes for now. And then I'm going to take that board all the way off. Then I can bring it inside someplace warm and nice and spend time with patience trying to get that key out. Or I'm going to need a new board and a key thing, which I can't remember if it was around $200 or $300. So probably try to avoid that if possible. Back at it again today. Going to work on that ignition switch, try to get that broken off key out of there. And the first thing I want to do is, because I got it dangling and it seems like there's a good chance of shorting something out to the frame there. If I don't watch that, I'm sure I'll blow something on the board if I short that out. Or if I'm lucky, maybe just a fuse would blow. But either way, we're not going to mess with it. I'm going to be taking that whole board off, which is probably just a couple screws and a couple plugs to get that in my hand so I don't have to be reaching into the tractor to keep working on it. So let's get the battery disconnected. Just because I have a good feeling there's a lot of opportunity to short something out. We're dealing with the main power, except for the starter. There we go. Yeah, I think just these two connectors here are what we're looking for. And maybe a 5/16 screw. 3-4 of those. Got you down here with me. Let's see if we can get these two connectors to come off. I am seeing some corrosion on that board and on these terminals where the wires connect to the terminals. So we'll get this all cleaned up. I got some stuff called deoxit. I will leave a link in the description below. It is to deoxidize electrical connections. It's made for that. And those turned out to be 1/4 inch. Come on. They looped the wire underneath. Well, I guess it wasn't underneath when they tightened it, but get these screws out of here. 3. Oh, that one didn't come all the way out. There we go. Okay, here's our starter board. Oh, forgot a connector. Set these screws down. Let me get a little screwdriver. In lieu of a screwdriver, I'll use this. Just something to lift that tab. There we go. All right, I got you zoomed in ridiculously close. So these terminals are fine. You can see that green crusties down at the base, but that's not going to affect that any. What is a little more concerning is around like every diode. If you look at the terminals going into them, you see green crusties. So this board is not going to last forever. We're going to clean the corrosion that's there off, but there's no repairing that. You just need to replace the board. Looks like they actually put some grease on the back of this to prevent the back of it from corroding, which probably wasn't a bad idea. And this just has general greasy, oily stuff that probably protected some of it from probably the engine or something. Maybe these fuses do come out. I thought those were soldered in. They seemed very tight when I went to go try them. But anyway, we'll clean this up. We'll clean the connectors up, and we'll do our best. The main goal is, because this is all working, but the main goal is to get that broken key out of there. Probably can see it a little better today in the sun. It's pretty deep in there. It's not a standard. Normally they just crack off at the end here and you can get a hold of them pretty easy, but this one was fighting me. Got it on the move. Still pretty deep, but we'll get it. Uh-huh. You didn't think I'd get it, did you? Just to help somebody else, I'll show you what did work. I use these carburetor cleaning brushes. I call them carburetor cleaning brushes. I think they're sold as welding torch tip cleaners. And these spiral welding torch tip cleaners on the sawtooth side of the key. I got the little one down along there to hold that one pin back. Just wiggle it, push it in. And then the other one I got in this groove, and I tried getting in that groove. And basically what I did, you can see all of my marks there. Well, no, you can't. Get you in closer. You can see all my marks on that brass. I got in here, and then I went crooked and pulled it back. And a little bit of lubricant works, as long as you're not caring about the lock too much. WD-40 is not really recommended for locks, but on something like this, which is a fairly low grade ignition cylinder, it's not like an $80 house lock. You know, it's pretty cheesy on the way it fits. So a little dirt in there won't be too bad if it collects dirt because of the WD-40. But anyway, we got it out. Success. Next thing I'm going to be using is deoxit contact cleaner. This is made specifically for electrical stuff. Removes oxidation, improves connection, seals and protects. Flushing action, safe on plastics. That's what we want. We don't want to use like carburetor cleaner where we don't know what it's going to do to the circuit board. All right, let's give this stuff a try on this board here. I'm going to just put some on there for a minute. Perhaps I should read the instructions on how you should use it. They recommend short burst onto the surface. Operate the parter device to break up oxides contamination. Wait a few seconds. Reapply one shot burst. Wait 2 minutes before turning on. But I want to more flush it than, and I want to see. I'm just using a toothbrush because it's plastic bristle. I want to see if I could just agitate it just a little bit here. And it stays wet pretty good. It's not a super solvent. Not something that dries off in a half a second. Definitely gets some dirt. Definitely cleans dirt. I'm going to let this sit even longer. I'm actually seeing some bridging in between these two. Might be just grease, but you don't want anything touching both, because if it gets wet, you're going to have a problem. It's just nice to have something that's made for electronics. Oops. Don't break, you little red light. I was kind of holding it a little rough there, apparently. I'm going to let that sit a few minutes, and then I'm going to go do the other connector ends. Next thing I'd like to tackle is this bracket. It's quite flimsy. It's got whittled down to almost nothing right there. What I do like is it's nicely connected to the machine. And the first little bit here isn't as rusty as the rest. So what I've got is some channel, angle, whatever you call it. I guess it would be angle, yeah. So I'm going to go inside here and maybe bend it and have it come around, because here's where that pedal for the differential lock has to go in, through that hole into the into its little home. And the way it was is this thing is pretty flexible. You're not putting a ton of weight on there, but I think I'll just reinforce it. I'm going to weld from underneath. That way the footrest will be sitting at the proper height. It sits on top of this. If I was to add more here, of course, it would be taller. I think that's the way we're going to go with it. Plans could change, but I think I'm going to just go from maybe, an inch away from the body there out. And then if I can I may make this piece separate, or I may try to bend a piece of that all in one. We'll see how this goes as we play it out. So here's what I got. I laid it out. There's no reason for me not to put that all the way in, because it's got a bracket behind it that's on the frame real thick. So I could get some welds right to the bracket. I don't want to cut this whole thing off is what I'm getting at, because there's already some strength there. So I'm going to cut it there, and then maybe I can heat this and bend that tab out backwards. This metal is not known for bending easily. It's very good welding steel, but I don't know that it's going to bend the way I want it, but we're going to try it. Let me cut this off and see what we got. See what that looks like. Yeah. I cut that a little shorter than it should have been, a little lower than it should have been. Well, it is what it is now. This part's going to work perfect. Yeah, I wish I wouldn't have gone that low because I'm going to barely be on there. I might redo it. We'll see. What if I made another piece? No, not long enough. That would be nice because I'm using the factory angle there to keep it strong. I just decided to make another one. That way I got enough meat there. I'm going to try to heat that up there, see if it'll bend nice. I'd sure like to one piece this if possible. Show you the progress here. Got that. Bent that pretty good. Now it's hitting this corner here because this is all just mutilated and I bent it back earlier. This is actually going to sit back a little further. So it's not going to be farther out than this because I'm just going to cut this piece off because this corner, mine has a long sweep radius. This one has a much sharper corner and it's holding me back right now. So I'm just going to buzz that off right there and that'll allow it to sit right where it needs to sit. But first, I'm going to try to get the height of this. Now, again, it's a little bent, so it might have a little play, but I'm going to mark that hole first. Get from the back with the paint marker. Gives us a nice indication of where we ought to be. Not really much left of that metal. That should allow me to sit where we want to sit. There we go. Let me drill that hole. Oh, actually, I'll mark these at the same time while we got the drill out. That's where our fender pan will bolt down. Our foot pan, footrest, whatever you want to call it. Cool. All right, got you on the front there. Just gonna do a little initial scraping here. I really want to pressure wash this, but my hose is still frozen. Get all this salt off for once and for all. Paint that's on there is just really holding the rust in. I guess I could take off the rear tire if I have to. I got that, I'm calling this the seat pan. It's the fender upside down, sitting on the tractor right now. And we could see it has cracks in the metal in several places. So what I'm gonna do some welding from the back. For today, while I go to weld that footrest thing on, I'm gonna weld this also. And I'm just gonna clean this area of paint, so I'll be able to get some welds on that. It's not anything real bad, but it'll make it more firm.